What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and today we're talking about everything that you want to know about patch 6.1. The live letter is this Friday, bright and early, and as usual, we'll be covering it over on Twitch and on Ginger Prime. Before we dive into kind of just what we expect, what you hopefully are excited about for the upcoming patch, we got a couple announcements. Chris is actually going to be raiding over on Twitch tonight. Going to be joining over on the Pandemonium. You've also been doing and gearing up to doing some Guild Wars 2 raids and more. So he's becoming not only the long locks of lusciousness, but he's also a raider in this regards. Also, we do, if you guys haven't seen, our friend Rock Druid, community manager for Work to Game, passed away this Sunday. And we're planning right now, tentatively, a kind of memorial service in game, looking at the 12th of March. I'll let you guys know once that date is locked in, kind of midday. So the majority of more people who want to come by and and say their farewells can do so in that regards. That's just kind of our announcements. Chris, did you have anything you needed to share before we kind of dive into the topic?
Tonight's raids are actually raising money for Ren Karagani. He took a fall and has lost use of one of his hands for now, and so he's got some medical expenses tied to that. And then next week, March 7th, I will be clearing 2.0 in 4 days. The only way we shift that plan is I do have a backup plan if the patch is further out than we think it is. That would be even longer. But the goal is to clear all of 2.0 in 4 days on stream. If you want to come hang out, those streams will be starting an hour early at 8 CST. This will hopefully be a progressive series if people enjoy it. When we get to Heavensward and Stormblood, remember, I have never cleared that content. So Heavensward and Stormblood will be all new to me. So getting through Praetorian this time will be kind of a nice refresher post Endwalker. I can tell you, for any of you that have been doing MSQ roulette, it does feel different knowing how the story ends to go back and see what is said by the characters in that dungeon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about patch 6.1, our expectations for this upcoming Friday, this next live letter, especially because the last live letter was so focused in on pretty much leading up to everything 7.0. Like, we know so much is coming. So much has already been confirmed for 6.1. Trust dungeons being, I guess probably the biggest game changer.
Game changer
for the game, the biggest game changer. So I think if you want to, we obviously don't have a date, and I don't think we'll get a date, but typically, Chris, why don't you tell them typically when we kind of can best guess the date.
So normally there is a number of weeks between part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is when we see all of the gameplay elements that from the stuff they go over in part 1, and they have a little more detail. They don't go over as broad of what they're doing, but what they do show is that's where they would show how the new PvP system works, what an island sanctuary is, and we would get to see some in-game footage. And then they don't show us in-game footage to things that would be spoilery. So maybe they show a boss platform, but that's usually a pretty short presentation because they're not going to show us the boss. And so and that's typically 2 weeks out. Now, a lot of times live letters happen on Fridays, and so 2 weeks, we're always referring to that Tuesday, that upcoming Tuesday. So we know that we're in that kind of ballpark of roughly 2 weeks from the day once they give us the date at this live letter of part 2. Mm-hmm. Assuming that this is typical, which they've been anything but typical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's one of the most exciting things going into this is that we already know that the patch cycles are going to 4 months as opposed to the 3.5 that they've been targeting, and that kind of really puts us from an estimate. If we were going to guess dates now, we're talking April, probably at the earliest. If they actually landed in March, that will be shocking, I think, for everybody. But overall, we're thinking pretty much April is a safe bet for when the patch drops. We do know that they'll start off, obviously, with kind of a summary of what they've already kind of announced and what's coming, and then they'll start actually going into more details, usually with the screenshots and more. I suspect, being how big the trust system and how big that changes, is they're going to go into a lot of detail on, hey, here's how the trust, here's the menu for the trust, here's what this looks like, do they level up on their own, really trying to help get ahead of any kind of questions that the community might still have lingering about that system itself. Traditionally, I think that the PvP, though, when we look at the stuff that's not necessarily dropping day and date, we know a new Ultimate's coming 2 weeks after the 6.1 date drops. Right. So that's okay, 6.11, and then essentially typically they end up putting kind of PvP on kind of the off patches, usually around the 0.5s. I don't know if that's going to hold true today, because I know a lot of people are really hungry for more PvP and the changes that's going to entail, because they're introducing a battle pass, so to speak. It's included with your subscription, but it's something that happens. It's a part of the PvP overhaulness of what this is going to entail. I also kind of am curious about how they want to present the story parts of the patches. Traditionally, you get the story beats leading up into the expansion, and traditionally the point 3 was the end of the current expansion, and point 4 started the beginning. But really, point 1, I guess, is taking us to wherever the heck they're going to take us in 7.0. What do you think?
I mean, there's a couple ways they could do it, right? So, like, our hero has earned a much needed rest. We've gone through a saga that they have not been clear on how many years have passed, but they estimate it's been in the ballpark of 8 years, right? It's been in the ballpark of the same amount of time the player has experienced, and so they won't give us a firm date because they know that the Ethos and Anonymous community of the world will come out and go, well, that doesn't make sense. And so, if you didn't write with that date in mind, don't give it now. You might be accidentally undoing some stuff. So I think they're ballparking that, and so there is a logic to lowering the stakes. There is a logic to us, helping a farmer tend sheep for 5 patches, and just kind of going around and seeing how, the NPCs that we care for are going to kind of continue with their lives and set us up for a new conflict. I think if they drop too much into the point 1 and point 2, it's going to feel like, oh, so really everything we didn't end a saga. It's more of the same. So I do think it needs to be pretty story light. That doesn't mean it can't be a 2 to 4 hour story patch. There is a lot of kind of people that we haven't checked in on, a lot of places that we haven't been in a while, that are places we've been before. So there's zones that they can take us to that it makes sense to go back and say, like, well, what would this look like now that everybody can kind of have a sigh of relief?
Yeah. Hey guys, we've really kind of brought people together. I think a lot of the story probably will shift into how do we rebuild? What is the future actually going to look like now that there's a future to be had? One of the things, obviously, like, we've been so kind of like focused on it. Yeah, I think essentially kind of almost a tour of, hey, like, here's here's these areas, here's these great characters. Being able to kind of like, maybe go to dinner with with like some of your favorites, like Robon and you just sitting down, like drinking some wine, talking, like, I don't know, that I think that'd be kind of something really interesting, because I don't want, I like, while I would love to see some, oh no, here's the next big threat, it will be kind of nice to be like, oh, if our problems, they're small problems right now, but those small problems can end up leading into bigger problems down the road, something that can have that satisfying payoff like we've had already currently. I think personally for me, I'm actually most curious about PvP. I've been the most curious about PvP in 6.1 for 2 reasons. A, does it really help engage that side of the community that wants it? Like, you don't have to do PvP if you don't want to do PvP. But I think one of the things that the PvP community has struggled with is that you want to do PvP and then you have to use outside tools to make that a possibility. This, we believe, from what Yoshi P shared about how like role restrictions are going away, like how they're really opening it up to 5v5, and that's a big change overall, like for the game. See how that ultimately feels, if that feels more fluid, and then essentially you look at the battle pass coming into play. That's my second big question. Do I personally feel too much FOMO from it, or is it balanced in such a way that it feels engaging, it feels like a fun optional piece of content, and that's a personal thing for me. I'm not saying everybody has to like worry about that. I look at myself and I tend to burn myself out whenever the FOMO gets too real. So I think that the fact that the currency of the battle pass doesn't expire, and that the idea is that you're earning that to be able to use for future stuff or on past things, I think that ends up kind of being the offsetting to the time, because it is going to happen where it's something to engage in the system, and I'm really curious about that. Like, that's what I want to see, that's what I want to know, and that's what I can't wait to go hands on with when 6.1 drops. Did I hit any cool notes for you, or is there any thoughts that you want to add to that?
No, I think PvP is something to be looked forward to. It's going to be a drastic overhaul. They have this new kind of Overwatch style thing that's replacing the arena style combat. The replacing is what's really shocking me.
Yeah.
Just in general, we've seen some things that are just being replaced, you know, with Cape Wind being replaced, with Praetorium being replaced, with Castrum being replaced, with the squadron system feeling largely like it's being replaced slowly. With the housing system, it's now going full lottery for everybody. They're not deleting anything. They could always revoke and go back to having first come, first serve wards if that has overwhelming support from the community. But they are going to start by defaulting to all wards are going to lottery, which means any time a house opens up, either because it's existing or the new wards come online, and any future new wards, it will default as being a lottery-based ward. And so this kind of concept of like deleting the way that things used to be to make way for a better tomorrow is kind of a new direction for the game. We really haven't had a lot of deleting. It's usually iterative, like, hey, we had companions, then we had squadrons, then we had trusts, but like there's still companions for out in the world. There's still trusts for some dungeons. You know, you have guild hests, you just don't really use them after a certain time. And so like they don't typically delete. We're also getting more Hildebrand. Believedly with this patch, we're also getting more adventures with a particular NPC. I know there's still people finishing up Endwalker, but we are getting the Grand Endeavors with a dear friend, and that'll be a new side story in addition to Hildebrand that is expected to be supported across 0.1 through 0.5. This is when we get our Myths of the Realm. We get our 24-man Myths of the Realm, that's 12, and there's a lot of questions around that lore-wise. Once again, trying to keep this relatively spoiler-free. We're getting our first Beast Tribe, which will be the Arxidara. They did go over at FanFest that we'd be getting elephant-based Beast Tribes, and we know that another one down the line will be rabbit-based, and then I would not be shocked to see us get a third Beast Tribe. Obviously, we knew that Dragonsong War, Dragonsong's Reprise would be our ultimate 2 weeks after. And with the PvP, we're getting a new calling guard system, which is kind of like your little like MySpace tag, because it's really hard right now to remember like who your friends are and stuff like that. So hopefully it gives them the ability to kind of communicate those profiles going out, so that people don't have to remember a character's name. Oh, who is that? Oh, that's that guy from work. Oh, that's that friend of Brian's. Like it's hard to remember who people are. And so hopefully, ideally, it's something where you can leave like notes that only you can see on people's, just so you can put like their first name if you know it, or like their other character's name if that's what you think of them as. And that's just something for you, like the way you'd leave notes in your phone. Like I have friends that I don't see very often. I have like their kids' names in their notes section, so that when they say their kid, like when we're going to visit them, like I do want to be respectful of them, and I do know they have kids, but like a lot of my friends have similar like named kids, and so like in my head,
technology, like, well, and you're friends
so
with me and Brandon. That's 9 names between the two of us.
9 names, and you end up, and they all look a little bit alike, and some of them are shockingly similar names when you compare them to like the breadth of all of humankind names. So like it's easy to mix them up. And so like it'd be nice if that system expands in that. We'll see what that is. We are getting new hairstyles for Roth. We know we're getting Ishgard housing. This is when custom deliveries begin to kick in. So for crafters that have been kind of hungry, because the Savage opening really was not the amount of content that crafters and gatherers I think hoped for. You kind of just blew through it. And then Glamour Plates getting expanded. We don't know how many plates they're getting. They're like, we don't know how many plates people need. I know how many. 1 for every class. Like, are there people that want more than that? Yes, but like I think we can all settle for like 1 for every class is a thing where like, okay, beyond that, you like a lot of glamoring. Less than that, you just don't play every class. Like that's a nice static number that you can always chase. Every expansion, just add 2 more plates. Just 1 for every job. And then Data Center Visit in 6.18. So what am I expecting for this week? I expect them to go back over all of that. I expect them to talk about rollouts of how the server stuff's coming, how they're looking at DC Visit, remind us of the restrictions. They look a lot like the World Visit restrictions. Go over all these systems, and then ultimately, like, I would love to hear them at least acknowledge Island Sanctuary, but if Island Sanctuary is not coming out until like the Criterion dungeons with 0.2, then Island Sanctuary could just be left silent, because he said, I do not want to talk about it again until I have gameplay to show, or I have concrete details. Because he's like, I showed you guys a watercolor and a name and you all freaked out. It's like, I'm not going to bring it up again.
It's like, all right. Well, okay. Message received. You're excited about this content. Here's the thing. Like, I want to kind of highlight at the end of this video for everybody that this is scheduled. This is structured as part 1 is 6.1 patch, and then miscellaneous announcement. So we don't have there's not an interview with this. There's not, like, it's going to be, I think, a very meaty focus in on 6.1. And then obviously when we say miscellaneous announcements, let's hit the merch shop, baby. Let's go. You know, so and who knows what other things they sneak into that. Usually it's
send us a picture of your feet and we'll send you custom fitted slippers.
Oh, that's yeah. Yeah, let's do it. But so I think that's actually also very good for people to know going into it, that it's like this is gonna be hyper focused on what we're gonna be playing most likely in April. And if and man, if they don't, if we, who knows, we'll have to wait ultimately.
Imagine if it's May. Would you be mad?
No, of course not. Like the better thing, I mean, would I be mad? No, I'll go play other games. Would but
at what point are you disappointed?
At what point am I disappointed that 6.1 2023?
Yeah. So if they say June, you're like, well, okay.
All right, that's what it is. Yeah, if it's June, it's June. Like, but I'm also in a position where I got Destiny. I haven't even stepped into the new Guild Wars expansion. I got Triangle Strategy that's dropping the end of this week. Apparently, Babylon's Fall is out, or it's about to come out, but I don't see anything about that game, and that's from Square and
A few people are liking Elden Ring.
A few people are. I heard a handful. You know, so it's like, yeah, there's so much. Freaking Lost Ark. I've been trying to contribute to the guild, and I actually just used all my silver, and now I'm like, all right, got to get back into that, get some levels.
All of it. How did you use all of it?
Mine
just goes up.
I've been just donating. I haven't been able to play. I haven't had time to play.
You only donate 6,000 a day.
Apparently, it won't let me donate
I have
anymore.
600,000.
Maybe I already donated. I don't know. Maybe I just forgot. But and then you know, with Lost Ark, and then you know, I was doing some skilling up in New World, which just dropped its latest patch. So
good.
Yeah, for my limited window of gameplay, like I definitely I maximize that to the max. Chris, why don't you send us off, man?
Guys, no telling what part 2 will be. It's too soon to hear about something like FanFest or anything big in that, and they didn't reference like a crossover interview or anything like that. So part 1 should last several hours. Remember, this one will be Japanese only, is what I believe. So those will be live translated by the Final Fantasy XIV Discord. Those heroes over there that live translate it, we will be handling it on our stream, reading their translations and kind of giving context where possible. If you want to hang out with us over on Twitch, that's where we are. And definitely come hang out. We've been playing a lot of other games, but we're more than happy to talk 14. We're more than happy to talk about whatever you want. So we're just having a great time in this incredible time to be gamers. And until Friday, take care.